Hello everybody and welcome to another video on Belty Wrestling. Today we're going to do a quick comparison between the Arosha Belts Crumrine Big Gold belt versus what was probably, at least a few years ago, the best valued Big Gold belt that you can get, the Fandu Luxe, this time in all gold. So let's get to it. So I've already made a video on the Arosha Belts Big Gold belt. If you want to have a look at it, check the description below. I go into a lot more detail about the belt, its pros and cons, and ultimately just giving my opinion on the belt. But before I had this belt in particular in my possession, I had what I thought was a fantastic belt at the time, and it still is. Let's not beat around the bush. It still is an alright belt. The Fandu Luxe All Gold. The reason I got the All Gold is because when I grew up watching wrestling, the dual plated variation had already been retired. This belt for quite a while was my pride and joy, and there is a lot of things about this belt that I like, and there's a lot of things about this belt I don't like. But one thing that you can't criticize the belt is its unique look. The main difference between the two, other than the dual platedness, well, in fact, there are quite a few differences, but we're going to start off with the way that the floral is all etched in. Now, as you can see on the Arosha belts, the floral is carved into the plate. It gives it sort of like a 2D version look from the top, but actually all these elements are raised and given a slight 3D texture, but it is all carved into the plate, which is quite incredible. Now, with the Fandu, all the floral elements are protruding, 3D, and they're cut with like this leaf pattern across the side. Now, what that does is, one, it makes it stand out in light hugely between the nugget texturing in the background and the nugget texturing in between all the floral. The light bounces between the two leaf elements of the floral, creating a very unique look in the light. It also, if you look at it from the side, gives it a very flat look as well. So it does have unique elements that make it stand out. And this goes onto the side plate as well, which, as you can see, is very detailed with the nugget texturing behind the grapplers and the floral patterns. The side plate itself, probably a bit more squarer than I like. There is no curve to this. It is as flat as you can get. And as you can see, the rope border on the Fandu does not go all the way around like it does on the Arosha belts, and any proper Crumrine should. Another difference is the font in the written words for World Heavyweight Wrestling Champion. Now, this is a lot more accurate to the Big Gold book and is individually carved and stuck on with, I'm not sure if you can get that, but you can sort of see the crisscross texturing that is raised from the outline of the border of the letter. If that makes sense. That is all fine. Now, if we go to the Fandu, there is an inverse in that. This isn't the same font. You can see here what I mean by the raised floral. This isn't the same font in the Big Gold. What this is a unique font, is the best way of putting it. I'm just going to sit down here to avoid the shaking, but you can sort of see it's harder, there's no rounded edges to it. It's raised, and it's the inverse, the texture bit is inset while the outline of the letter is raised. But what this actually means is that, in addition to the nugget texturing, is that in certain lighting, it's very hard to read the World Heavyweight Wrestling Champion banner. Obviously, this would be completely different on the dual plate variation of this, where all this element here is obviously silver. You can see the silver in between all of this stuff. So just imagine this dual plated. But for the all gold version, very difficult to read. One thing that is better on the Fandu Luxe than the dual-plated Arosha belts is the outline of the crown. Now, I say outline. The detail on the crown is forever going to be better on the Arosha belts, but the shape of the crown is slightly more wider than it is. Now, the actual crown is probably more in line with the shape of the Fandu Luxe. As you can see here, it's kind of more, it goes from the wide element around here and then goes straight down. So it's a crown, while this one, you sort of see it goes around there and then it goes sort of diagonally on each side before rounding off the bottom. Other than that, the crown of the dual-plated Arosha belts is infinitely better. But one of the nice details I like about the crown on here is, and I'm not sure we can get close before the camera fades out, but the detail in between the stone holders. Now these are just plastic stones. There is a large amount of detail that I'm hoping you'll be able to see around the stone holders, and it is actually fantastic and very nice. The globe, on the other hand, again suffers in the same way that the texture does. The texture of the copy does at the top, the front, is in terms of the continents. They are carved into the globe, but the texture itself, you can see it's a very mirror finish. You can see me. Hello. The texture itself is hard to see in certain lights, and it's a mirror finish, so it makes it even worse. There are no latitude lines in the globe as well compared to the Fandu, the Arosha belts, which you can see is just infinitely better. But for, what was this, £650, it's all right. Now, one element that I think that this belt does way better than the Arosha belts is the grapplers. Now, for the grapplers on the Arosha belts, there is nothing wrong with them per se. From a distance, they look fine. They're raised stacked pieces, so you can see they sort of above the plate. They get the job done. My problem with them is the size of them is smaller than obviously your C4s and your classic shields, with C4 being the best representation of the grapplers because they've used casted molds from the original Crumrine, and classic shields being the right size but lack of detail. These are smaller and they have lack of detail, but from a distance they do the job. Now, if we go to the Fandu, you can see that one, the size of them is much bigger. They don't protrude out as much from the plate, but you can see the singlets. You can see, well, just the singlets really. It's still a little bit blurry as whole, but there is a lot more definition in that, and they are bigger, and I think that is more accurate than the size of these. Now, obviously the camera isn't going to do it justice, but you can probably see. In fact, if I just grab this, get up and gently put it over, you can sort of see the difference. Let me just do this a bit more. Oh, careful not to scratch. You can sort of see here the size. They are bigger than those and more detailed. But obviously, you can see here the difference in just the floral elements. It's just incredible. Like truly different belts, but also very similar. You can sort of see it here as well. And the shape would be reminiscent and not mention the shape. This belt is smaller than the Arosha belts. And the reason being on both side plates, as you can sort of see here, and the main plate. The reason being is that the Arosha belts is more sized to the original Crumrine belt. Fandu's is sort of shaped more towards the WWE style 3D Big Gold, which is why I sort of see this as sort of like a hybrid between the 3D and the original in terms of the floral and design. But it is noticeably smaller than the the Arosha belts. And forgive me if I'm trying to explain all of this with two belts that are quite big, but as you can sort of see from here, they're different dramatically, and the Arosha belts looks like $1 million, and this kind of looks like the original Fandu replicas. It's not to say it's bad, it's just the belt game has changed, it has moved on. And when this originally came out in 2018, there was classic shields, and there were the really expensive replicas of the Big Gold. Now there's so many more people making belts that the belt game has moved on. Before we go any further, let's talk about the conchos. Obviously the conchos on here are stacked relief pieces on the belt. They sort of mimic the original conchos then on the Crumrine. They're not perfect, but they are, really, they're serviceable, they're really nice. I can't really criticize them. The rubies are nice and everything. Now if we go to the conchos on the Fandu, you sort of can see that they are nothing like what they should be, but they are not relief pieces. They are milled into the plate, and the jewels are slightly bigger and a different shade of red, so they come out better in my opinion. It stands out more in my cabinet, but yeah, and that goes for the two rubies on the crown itself. Because of the actual stones on here being cubic zirconia, the Arosha belts is obviously going to sparkle a lot more, but for standard plastic stones, these get the job done. Now, the big problem, as you can see, sort of the difference in curve. This one is substantially more curved. I asked for my plate to be, my Arosha's, to be a little bit more flat, because that's how I remember it on TV. But you sort of see the nice swirl patterns here, and that's what I really love about that belt. It's these nice swirl patterns. But one thing to note is, when you're buying a Fandu belt, and this has happened to mine, it happened to Stephen Hammers, it's happened to a few other people on the Reddit, is tarnish. That's the key word that I absolutely hate, and I worry for this belt in particular, because I had this belt for half a year, and it started to tarnish. And when you're paying £600 or $700 for a belt, you want safe knowledge to know that, it's going to last a long time, that it's going to sit in your shelf fine. This, unfortunately, has gotten tarnished, and I'm going to show you. You can probably already see, started right there. We already see here, another one there, and there's one bit of element there. Now, because of that, I've had to babysit this belt quite a lot, cleaning it, making sure it's all fine, but the tarnish and damage is done, and it only progressively gets worse over time. Now, thankfully, it's in spots that you don't really notice too much, because I know a lot of people have tarnish around the letters, and it's more noticeable in that case. But still, to have tarnish on a belt that you've just spent £600, $700 on, big disappointment. Right. Now, let's talk about leather. Now, the leather on Arosha is night and day better than the leather on the Fandu. Now, let's begin with the stitching. The Fandu stitching is uneven. You can sort of see here, it starts off well, but then it's just uneven, it's slightly messy, and it carries on all the way around the belt. It is perfectly fine around here, but then as soon as you get to the edges, it starts to go a bit crazy. And actually, when I got my Fandu belt, it had damage on the snap hooks. You can see that imprint there. Do not mind the white paint, that was when it was against my paw briefly, but the damage on the leather was frustrating, to say least. Again, when you spend this kind of money, you expect perfection. The leather cut is not 100% round. You can sort of see it around about there, that it starts being lumpy, I guess, in the right way. We're on the Arosha belts. It is fine, and the stitching is much neater, although there is the start point there. But the leather on this is more flexible. There is a black backing on mine that was requested by me, so don't worry about that. I like my bolts covered. The only thing I forgot to mention was I prefer it in the colour of the front part of the leather, but that's on me, and I don't stare at my back of my belt so much. But yeah, it's alright. It could be a little bit more looser, but for sitting on my cabinet, it's perfectly fine. Now, there you go. That's all you need to know. My finger is right underneath it, and it's almost as stiff as cardboard. And that's because there is some laminate material on the backing, which I'm pretty sure makes it stiffer. But it's better than WWE Shop's polyurethane, but it's not that nice. They do have that stamp here, but yeah, not that nice. It gets the job done if you're going to have it in the cabinet, but if you really hate this level, then obviously you want to re-leather it. Where this one, I really look at that. You can already see it droops. One finger droop. One finger droops. Obviously the further you get, but that's gravity. But yeah, it's just more flexible, more malleable to movement. But yeah, other than that, as I get up, and you can see the unevenness of these belts now as they've been moved around. That has been my quick, well, I say quick, it's been 16 minutes, but quick comparison between the two belts. One is priced substantially cheaper than that one. That one you can get about between 1,800 and 1,900 pounds. This one's about 600 to 700. You can get it cheaper on belt groups. But let me know what your first big gold was, because this one was my first, but this one is the forever one. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. What's your favorite big gold style and design from any belt maker? And let me know what else you want to see from my channel. Obviously, this is my pride and joy. I do have two other belts that are of SD variations, so they don't really compare to this, but this is the pride and joy of the collection. If you want to see more, including an in-depth comparison between this and the Big Gold book, let me know down below. I've been Belty Wrestling, and thank you for watching.